What's the difference between a motorcycle and a scooter? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you, even though I suspect a lot of you may already know. But here we are reviewing this, the Primavera 50, and this is a Vespa. And a Vespa, I'm going to compare it, yes indeed, to a Porsche, because when you think of Porsche, what do you think of? You probably think of a 911. And when you think of a scooter, you probably think of a Vespa. And just like the 911, Vespa has been continually improving and making this better since it was first introduced in Italy after the Second World War. Now, this was a basic form of transportation, and it has not changed much, except that it has gotten, well, more modern in its, not design, but certainly in its performance. So in this video, we're going to take it for a ride. We're going to show you all the cool features of this Primavera 50, and we're going to ignore the fact that there is also a 150. Now, the 150, well, that's more of a commuter bike. This is more of a Floridian, yep, I'm here in Florida, scooter, and that's because it only has about 3 horsepower and will reach a top speed, which I did, of about 42 miles an hour when you really push it. The great thing about a 50 is that you really don't need a motorcycle endorsement, and in some places in America you can ride it at 14, so this is very much an entry-level scooter. Having said that, because it is a Vespa, it's probably a little bit too expensive for many people to afford as their first scooter. We'll talk about that as well. But let's start with this model, the color vibe. This is a 2023, and for 2025, they have improved the Primavera. To some extent, it gets a bigger TFT, it gets more LEDs, but in general, it's very much similar to this motorcycle. And of course, what makes the Vespa so iconic is this shape right there. The legend goes that people compared that to a wasp, and Vespa in Latin, and I believe Italian, means wasp. And this shape has been iconic ever since it was introduced in Italy. And it's what most people think of when they think of a scooter, just like when they think of a Porsche, they think of a 911. Now, there are some unique design features that the Vespa brings to the table. We're looking at 12-inch wheels with kind of a mono shock right there, which is kind of a cool feature because it cleans up this side where you can see this really cool, interesting blue wheel. In the back, same basically setup. Instead of a mono shock, of course, mono arm, you have a swing arm, which encompasses the entire drivetrain of the vehicle. Now, this 49cc motorcycle, according to Vespa, puts out about 3 horsepower. So if you're looking to commute, I would suggest you look at the 150. That has obviously more power and more features. But for island life, where the top speed limit in this island is 35 miles an hour, this is the perfect scooter. All right, let's take her for a ride. Great thing about a motorcycle is that they're fast, they're aggressive, and you can get out of harm's way. None of that is true with a scooter, at least not a 50cc scooter, but that's what makes it so much fun and such a hoot to ride. The brakes are just gentle, the acceleration with the CVT is gentle. You have a place to put your legs back here, away from the elements. So if it does rain, you can stay nice and dry. And it's just a very leisurely way and a very fun way to get around. Now, this Vespa has a very low center of gravity, which makes it easy to maneuver. No issues right there. Very quiet. And just a sheer hoot when you're out on an island with a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. Like I said, I wouldn't want to take this on any kind of a quick or fast main road, because you might end up definitely not enjoying that experience. People wave to you because because you're non-threatening, and there's something to be said for that. Of course, the other thing I love about scooters, especially on an island like this, is that you can, like a motorcycle, you can smell all the smells. You can just enjoy the ride. You don't have to worry about all of the baggage that comes along with riding, you know, a full-on motorcycle. Here, it's just kind of putting along and enjoying what you see around you. Now, in terms of competition, this competes with other scooters like the Ruckus and about 5,000 other cheap Chinese scooters that have copied Vespa. I bought one of those a few years ago down here, and it lasted about a year before the carburetor jumped up and it was unrideable. This, with the fuel injection, you don't have to worry about. The other problem with that one was that after about a year, I couldn't even give it away because nobody wanted it, because it felt like the front wheel was going to fall off at any time. This feels solid and sturdy. Feels like it was made by a company that knows how to build motorcycles, or in this case, scooters. Now, let's talk about some more features. First and foremost, standard, you get a center stand. You can add a side stand if you so choose. But once you get used to the center stand, it's actually pretty easy to use. And what makes, of course, a scooter unique from motorcycle in the two-wheeled world is that you have more leg protection here. Instead of kind of sitting atop the thing, you sit between the thing, if that makes sense. And of course, it also offers all-weather protection in the helmet case. In this case, you can actually fit even a 3/4-inch helmet, so it's a pretty deep little pocket. Now, interestingly, Vespa has chosen to remind us that this is not a place to put pets, even though you might be tempted since it's waterproof. But yeah, please don't put your pets on there or in there. And then if you lift up this little cubby here, you'll note that there is the powertrain. It's a 1-cylinder, 3-valve, fuel injected, and that's important here in Florida where maybe you don't ride it that often. Fuel injected 3-horsepower engine that, like I said, is more agrarian. I got this thing over here that's getting in the way, which is normally a good thing. So it's got these little metal tabs where you can place your helmet. And I'm using one hand, so excuse me, where you can place your helmet and lock it up. The fuel tank is right there. 2.1 gallons, which according to Vespa gets 80 mpg. Now, if I do my math, that's a lot more than that boat. In other words, you can get 182 miles of range out of one tank, which is probably about 150 more miles than you'll ever want to ride it at one shot. Now, some of the other cool features are there's a little grab rail here. This Color Vibe model, everything is matte black, which normally on a Vespa would be chrome, including these strips, including that. You still have the chrome mirrors. This iconic little Vespa fin is black, and I really like it. I think black is the way to go, especially now that a lot of the chrome is on its way out, at least fashion-wise. Now, you do get some pretty interesting, oh, just dropped that too. You do get some pretty interesting LED taillight. Let me start it up for you. Traditional key. If you get the more expensive 150, you'll get a fob. And I don't necessarily know if you really need a fob. It just seems to add complexity, another battery. But, you know, it goes up to 80K or 50 miles per hour in the speedometer. The newer versions have a bigger display here. But this one just gives you the basics. Everything you need, nothing you don't. But let me hit the brake light so you can kind of see. If I can hit it and show you at the same time, so you can kind of see how cool that is. You get a nice little round light, even though it's squared. And of course, the turn signals in the newer ones are LED. In this one, they're just traditional bulbs, which is also fine. So you do have a turn signal indicator. On the left side here, you've got your brights, your non-self-cancelable turn signal, your horn. Here you have your power switch. You've got different modes. All that does is give you 2 trips and then a total of miles, in this case 55. And then, of course, your engine start. Now, this Primavera does not have a traditional gearbox. Like most scooters, it has a CVT. So where the clutch would be is now a brake lever, back and front. And in the front, you actually have a pretty nice setup. About 3 inches of suspension travel in the front and in the back, but you've got vented rotors, not like a bicycle brake, but like a full-on motorcycle brake. So stopping is, well, it doesn't bite as much as a traditional motorcycle, and I think that's really on design or by design, because let's face it, especially Vespas, they're meant to be cute, fun, and approachable, and this is about as approachable as you can get. So like I was saying, the transmission is a CVT, which lends itself to good fuel economy and leisurely acceleration. There is another kind of a fun feature here, and that is when you push this in, you do get a little glove box right there for things like glove, or in this case registration. Over here you get a US traditional kind of USB port, so if you had earphones, you could use navigation. Earbuds, you can use navigation, and you can keep your phone in there. If you're riding a scooter, chances are you probably know where you're going, so I'm not sure navigation is that crucial. And to start it up, all you do is hold that and push this. It comes right to life, and it is super quiet because it's only 49 cc's and gets 80 mpg. So you're not going to wake the neighbors or scare anybody with this. Here, I'll show you. You can see the CVT hard at work there. Very quiet little scooter, super non-threatening. I guess it would be the converse or the exact opposite of a Harley. I don't know. I think in Britain at one point there were those scooter gangs, but for the most part, no one's terrorizing people on Vespas. And that's the thing about Vespas, right? They are more fun than anything else on two wheels in some ways. And that's why I like the fact that they're very traditional controls, just really easy to get into. I also like the mirrors, very simple and straightforward. A lot of mirrors shake and wobble and rattle. These actually work, and they are still chrome on this model, so are these little surrounds, but that's okay. And then of course you do get an LED headlight, so you can see it splits in half. Regular one, the top one is lit. When you turn on the there you go, when you turn on the brights, the bottom one is also lit. So from a technical specification, like I said, you could be 14 and ride this in many places. You don't have to have a motorcycle endorsement, and it's just a very easy vehicle to learn on and get into if you're into two-wheeling. Now this is a two-up, so the seat is kind of unusual that there are spaces here, indents, so you can put your legs on the inside. By the way, battery lives under there, and then your backseat passenger has a very comfortable seat in the back. You also get pegs for the backseat passenger, and there are, oh my gosh, so many accessories, and even models that have accessories already with them. So you might get a little basket in the back with a little backrest for your passenger. You can get a basket in the front. You can get a windshield. Probably no end to the amount of accessories that are available for Vespa. And I think this is a kind of two-wheel vehicle that, let's say your mom, dare I say your grandma could get on and actually ride. Now, there are some downsides to the scooter. First and foremost is the weight. At 250 pounds, it's pretty heavy. The good news is that it all lives relatively low, so it doesn't feel heavy. It feels substantial, but for a 49 cc ride, 250 pounds is quite a bit. The other downside is price. Now, this 2023 model, you'll see it listed at some dealerships for $3,000. I think originally it was about $4,500. But there's this thing happening now, and it probably been happening a while, at motorcycle dealerships where they list the vehicle low, and then you get in there and they charge you $800 in prep and $400 in delivery. And when it's all said and done, it becomes a $5,000 vehicle. I don't know if that's because the economy of like a local motorcycle shop doesn't allow them to make enough money just off the MSRP, or if that's a way to grab more money. But it's not a good business plan when they advertise something and then, you know, they make up the difference between the low ad rate and the actual out the door MSRP with kind of junk fees, or let's say inflated fees. Let me know in the comments below if you've seen that as well. So out the door, for us, when I bought this, which was recently, this was about a $5,000 scooter. Keep in mind that we also purchased a Royal Enfield Himalayan, which is a 450cc dual sport full-on motorcycle for just a little bit more. And so that's when you can kind of see why you're paying a Vespa premium. And over the years, Vespas, like I said, started as kind of an agrarian, getting Italians moving after the war, to now becoming a heritage bike, heritage scooter, that people buy because, you know, they like what it says about them as opposed to how it rides. And the question you might be asking yourself, how does it ride? Well, let's do this. Unfortunately, I don't have my helmet cam, so I'm going to do the best using my meta glasses to show you how it rides. Well, let's take her for a ride because that really is the magic in a scooter. Now, of course, the question you might be asking yourself, is it worth spending this much money on a 35 mile an hour, 49cc scooter when you could get a sport bike, you can get a dual sport, you can get a dirt bike for the same amount or even less? And I would argue that it depends on the use case. Like I said, initially these were designed to be conveyances, basic, cheap transportation, fuel-efficient transportation for Italians after the Second World War. And then when Audrey Hepburn got on one, they became cool. And there's a price for cool, and Vespa knows that. So just like a Porsche 911, you are going to end up paying for the heritage and all of that coolness that comes along with it. But I would argue that even though $5,000 in the motorcycle world can get you a lot of bike, the fun factor, the ease of use, and just the pure joy of riding a classic Vespa is worth the cost of entry. And I know that's true because I was looking around at used ones, and they're not much cheaper. I mean, they do depreciate, but not a lot. So maybe a used Vespa that's, let's say, 5 years old might be $1,000 cheaper than a new one, you know, and it won't have a lot of miles because, like I said, a full tank will get you 182 miles, and that's probably 150 more than you'd want to go. The other question I was asking myself is, would I use this to commute around Boulder? And the answer is no. I think if you're going to do that, you probably want to get yourself the Primavera 150. And at that point, I think you probably go for a motorcycle. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this review. And let's wrap it up by telling you the difference between a motorcycle and a scooter. The difference between a motorcycle and a scooter is that you can step through a scooter, whereas you gotta step over a motorcycle. And while that may not seem like a big difference, it certainly makes a lot of difference when it comes to riding style and just how much speed and attitude you can get on a scooter versus a motorcycle. And for places like Florida, where of course speedboats are the new 911s, a Vespa is about as perfect as it gets. Oh, I also did forget to mention that of course Vespas are built by Piaggio right there, and they do make an electric version of this, which puts out about the same amount of torque, maybe a little bit more, so it's a little quicker accelerating. But I rode the Piaggio electric bike, and that has the upside where you can actually remove the battery and then take it, in this case, upstairs and charge it. But I have to say I am not a huge fan of electric vehicles. Okay, let me rephrase it. I am not a huge fan of electric two-wheeled vehicles. I do like electric vehicles, but two-wheeled vehicles seem to make the least amount of sense. I mean, this thing already has incredible fuel economy. It's very small. It doesn't take up a lot of space. And it just felt like a toy, whereas this feels like, you know, a scooter. There's something, even with a CVT, that makes it very fun and joyful to twist the throttle and hear that little engine come to life and push you along down the road. And so even though Piaggio does make an electric Vespa Primavera as well as a electric Piaggio scooter that you can remove the battery, I still decided to go with this because there is much of a cost difference, and at the end of the day, if you're going to go heritage, they didn't have electric Vespas in 1950. Head on over to alltfl.com for more news, views, and reviews. And thanks to our sponsor for making this video possible. I'll see you next time. Ciao.